Alrighty then, after the heist, a Jigsaw story. Reviewed by some person I don't know. After the heist, a Jigsaw story, written by Cole965, with an aptly Jigsaw piece. I don't think that's the same type of Jigsaw we're talking about here. Wait. Oh my god, the header bothers me so much. Table of Contents. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 5, Chapter 6. It's 28 pages. This is probably going to be where I split off the video into the next one. Because this is its own beast. Help! Someone! Could anyone hear us? A voice wakes Kitty up with a start. My head hurts. She slowly looks around. Where am I? The room, if you could even call that, feels more like a claustrophobic concrete box. There's a table in the corner with an old TV set and some sort of box on it. Hanging in the middle of the room is 5 keys, each about 2 feet apart from each other. There's no space here. Yeah. She looks to her left and notices a row of people chained up. They seem vaguely familiar. What the heck happened last night? She mutters to herself. The air around her is cold, and it sends shivers down her spine. Spooky, scary skeleton. She is chained to the wall by her neck. The cold metal rests against her skin, giving her goosebumps. To her left, she sees a line of people who are chained up with her. They're in bad shape. The one furthest from her has a torn-up blue shirt and a poorly kept beard. The next one wears a white t-shirt stained with blood. The next person down the line is wearing a business suit, as if he was just in a meeting before being dragged here. The one next to her is wearing a torn hoodie that looks like he just stole it from some teenager in Hot Topic. Why are you doing this to us? The bearded man screamed angrily. I did not predict that dialogue correctly. Why are you doing this to us? The bearded man screamed angrily. He looks like he had one drink too many and probably lives under a bridge. Oh, calm down, asshole. Screaming is not going to get us anywhere, hisses the man wearing the suit. Well, I am not going to sit around and do fucking nothing, the first man retorts. Hey, watch your language, says a more scheduled man in the white t-shirts that looks like he hasn't seen the sun in 5 years. Kitty starts looking at the arguing strangers, then suddenly he realizes that she knows them. Nas, is that you? Kitty asks the angry man. Yeah, who wants to... Kitty? Nas responds, recognizing Kitty. Well, obviously. I don't think you needed to state that, but... Shh. Kitty looks at the others in the room. I thought you had a fucking essay to write. Do you need to move into the main room so that I'm not distracting you? I thought you wanted to play video games after. It still works. Kitty looks at the others in the room. The man wearing the suit turns out to be Urban. The quiet man she realizes is Dino, and she sees Alex in the hoodie sitting down against the wall. What are we doing here? Kitty asks, feared, comma, needs to be here. Kitty asks, the fear sprinkled in her voice. Hell if I know. I bet one of you did this to me. Nas aggressively responds. Cool it, Nas. We don't know anything yet. Urban says, trying to defuse Nas. He turns to Kitty and explains, all we know is that we all just woke up here, and none of us can remember anything from last night. Right as he finishes his sentence, the television flickers to life, revealing a white puppet with glowing red eyes in a black suit. Hello, everyone. You don't know me, but I know you, the puppet says. I want to play a game. The 5 of you may know each other. You may recall a certain events from your pasts. The 5 of you decided it would be a good idea to rob a bank, depriving innocent people of their hard-earned money. This heist resulted in the deaths of innocent people and the arrest of a dear friend of yours. Your lack of trust in each other and the authorities destroyed families. Yet after all of that, you still got away. Rather than learning from your mistakes, you all continue to distrust each other, authorities, and others. Okay, so right now we're faced with two mysteries. One, who's this Jigsaw person, if he's even representing someone, and who got arrested. I don't think Lost Milan was mentioned here. So we know it's not Kittie, we know it's not Dino, it's not Alex, and it's not Niles. And not Urban. That leaves myself and Lost Milan and quite a few other people. Orphan? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But my prediction is that Lost Milan is Jigsaw. Just at the very beginning of the game. The puppet continued. Now today, you will learn to appreciate the life you had been given and to learn to trust others. Each of you holds the keys to your freedom, but your freedom is also in the hands of your trust in others. You must realize that everything you think is right is backwards. The chain around your necks are all connected to each other. If you look behind you, you will see saw blades emerging from the wall. The puppet explains. The keys in front of you will unlock your collars and free you. You have 2 minutes to get your key and free yourself. At the end of the 2 minutes, the collars will retract into the wall and the saw blades will start, making this room your final resting place. Will you learn from your past mistakes to save yourself? Live or die? Make your choice. Detective... Well, that ruined the theory. Detective Loss had been working for the police force for around 10 years now. He walks into the office sipping his morning coffee. The conversations all around the office blend together into one big white noise. Loss enters the office to see his partner Cole. He had his legs crossed, drinking a Dr. Pepper and reading over a file he had in his hand. Cole had been his partner for about 5 years now. They knew everything about each other and were able to take on anything that the world threw at them. Morning, Cole. Greeting Loss. Well, if he... Wait. If Loss had been a detective for 10 years, that would make him a detective since he was -5. Because he's 5 years old.
Is the kid actually 5 years old?
No, that's just a joke. That's what he says he is. He's like 20.
I'm so confused.
But then again, if he's 20, he'd been a detective since he was 10. It's better than -5. Morning, Cole, greeted Loss. What are you doing here so early? What, can I not just come in to say hi? Cole humors, then suddenly serious. Wait. Then suddenly serious, he continues. Well, I have some big news. There's no comma in there. Well, you have my attention. Loss says as he sits back behind his desk. Cole tosses the file into the desk. 2 pictures slip out of it and lay face up on the desk. One was a picture of an obese man with a jigsaw piece cut out of his skin. His body was draped across a bundle of barbed wire. Many cuts and scars would be seen in every square inch of his body. He showed signs of blood loss and was most likely the cause of death. The other picture was a girl with the same jigsaw piece cut out of her skin, her face completely destroyed and bloody. The shrapnel embedded in her skin showed that she was killed by an explosion. Included into the file was some paperwork in the file that read John Kramer, the Jigsaw Killer, status deceased. These photos are victims of the infamous Jigsaw Killer, Cole says, pointing to the photos. Yeah, I remember. Why do you have them now? Loss asks. This photo, Cole says, pointing to the dead man, was taken 14 years ago. Yeah, what's your point? Loss asks impatiently. This one was taken 24 hours ago. Cole points to the dead woman. The victim's name is iPhones. She was found laying in an abandoned house near the industrial district. The puzzle piece is an exact match to the ones that Kramer cut out of his victims. Kramer died 10 years ago. Are you suggesting we have a copycat? Loss asks, completely taken aback. That is exactly what I am suggesting. Cole tosses the letter onto the desk, addressed Detective Loss. Loss opens the letter, being careful not to ruin its contents. Inside he sees a paper that reads, "Don't lose this. The games have just begun." Loss looks back into the envelope and sees the key inside. "What do you think this key is for, Cole?" Loss asks his partner, still processing everything. "I don't know. I waited for you to get here to open it. I suggest keeping that key, though. Better to listen to him. If he really is a copycat, we need to follow the rules." Yeah, whatever. Loss responds plainly, putting the key in his front chest pocket on his shirt. "Well, why don't we head to Jigsaw's old workshop? We might find something there," Cold suggests, standing up from his seat. Sounds good. Let's get going." Loss gathers the papers and pats his chest pocket before heading out the door, locking it behind him. This is a sentence fragment. Triggered. He couldn't believe that he was going to the infamous Jigsaw's workshop. People's lives were in danger and he had no time to lose. I've been reading a fucking screen for too long. Eyes are already starting to hurt because of that one stupid story.
Is that like a text to speech? Did that take a fun night?
Well, first of all, this is supposed to be a reactions video. There's no reactions in text-to-speech. And second of all, you can't really TTS a fucking PDF. Chapter 2. The television screen flickers and reveals a timer that starts counting down from 2 minutes. Kittie looks over and sees everyone else frozen in fear. "I ain't dying today," Nas screams, being the first to run to the keys. His chain extends out of the wall and in turn drags everyone back. "Stop, you fricking idiot," Dino manages to say as he claws at his collar. Dino's dragged back to the wall by his chain. "Our chains are linked. You are gonna kill us all." Dino starts to yank on Nas's chain, sending him to the floor. Nas struggles to get up as Dino tries to move forward, pulling Nas back further. Kittie and Alex inching forward as well. Urban's still stuck on the wall due to the combined force of everyone pulling. "I am not dying because of you fucks," Nas yells. He grabs his chain and pulls it forward with all of the energy he can muster. He inches slowly towards one of the 5 keys and grabs the one that is hanging in front of him. Nas lets go of his chain and he gets yanked back to the wall. He hits the floor, knocking the wind out of him. He starts to try to unlock his collar when he starts to stabilize himself. Kittie makes a run for her key as Nas is brought back. She makes it to her key and grabs it just as she's dragged back by Urban, who grabs her chain. The timer continues to tick down and shows 56 seconds remaining. "Stop!" Dino yells at the top of his lungs. "You guys are gonna get me killed." He is halfway to his key and trying to pull his chain further out of the wall, not making any progress. "You did this to yourself," Kittie says as she fumbles with her collar, trying to unlock it. "We all are here for a reason." The clock reads 27 seconds left, just as Urban retrieves his key. "That's it," Dino yells. He lets go of his chain and punches Alex, knocking him down. Dino then runs and grabs his key. "You fucking asshole, I'll kill you," Alex screams. He jumps and runs to his key, starting to free himself. 7 seconds remaining. 4 seconds remaining. Nas frees himself and his collar zips back to the wall. 3 seconds remaining. Urban and Alex get their collars off and fall to the ground gasping. 2 seconds remaining. 1 second. Nothing. 1 second remaining. Kittie removes her collar and falls down exhausted. The clock beeps, indicating that time is up. Everyone looks at Dino, who's still in his collar. "Oh God," Dino said, all color drained from his face. His collar drags him back to the wall. He grabs his key and starts tearing at his collar, trying to breathe, his back resting against the now extended saw blades in his wall. "Why me?" Dino manages to get out, just as his back is torn up as the blade starts to spin. Blood is spattered all over the room and saw blades eat through Dino's body. Eventually the blades stop and Dino's body falls to the ground in pieces, blood pooling around him in the ground. That's lovely.
So you got it off then?
Well, Dino dies, acting completely out of character. That's great. Kittie stares at Dino's lifeless body, battling tears. "Oh my fucking God, he just died." Alex runs to the corner and leaves his stomach of its contents. "What kind of fucking twisted game is this?" Nas yells at nobody in particular. Urban stumbles over the wall and props himself up. No, this can't be happening," he mumbles to himself. Kittie goes over and collects the keys that they used, putting them in her pocket. "What are you doing?" Nas asks angrily. He's slightly calmer than before. "I am being smart," Kittie replies. "I pray to God that this is a game." "Why?" Alex asks, turning around, still recovering from the horror of seeing Dino's limp corpse. "Because games can be won." Kittie states plainly. Alex starts walking over to the table in the corner. On top of it rests a wooden box. Inside is a red velvet lining, one bullet, and a note card that reads, "This will decide your fate." Guys, there's a bullet here and a note too. Alex shares the note card and pockets the bullet. What does it mean by that it will decide our fate? Kittie asks, her voice filled with fear. I don't know, but I think we better move on to the next room. Look up in the corners. Alex points to the corners on the ceiling. Nail bombs. We better leave before they go off. Realizing that they're still in danger, they walk through the heavy metal door. When they stop in, the door shuts behind them and seals themselves, locking them into their new room. This new room had a whole new set of horrors in for them. In the center rests a pile of skulls that look like they were hundreds of years old. In each corner of the ceiling are nail bombs like the previous room. On the left side of the room is 3 pipes in the wall, large enough to climb into, each of them sealed off with a locked grate. The room was even colder than the last one. The walls are covered in mold. Pools of water form at the edges of the floor where the floor and wall meet. At the front of the room is another heavy bolted door just like the one they came through. On the right wall rests a television mounted on the wall. Suddenly, they hear a loud explosion behind them. Dust blows into the room from underneath the bolted door. Before they could comprehend what had just happened, the television flickers to life. Lost steps out of the police car onto the gravel ground and closes the door behind him. They had just arrived at John Kramer's original workshop, the Gideon meat packing plant. Next to him, Cole steps out of the passenger side and closes his door. "Can you open the trunk, Loss?" Cole asks. "What for? We are just looking around. No need to get the vests," Loss counters. "I myself want to follow the rules. You don't have to, but I'm getting my bulletproof vest." Cole trots over to the trunk and starts to put on the vest, sliding it over his head. "Whatever you do," Loss says, rolling in his eyes. "Let's get going." Yeah, coming," Cole says as he finishes tightening his straps. Loss and Cole start walking over to the nearest door on the east side of the building, the gravel underneath them crunching with every step. They arrive at the door and turn the handle. The door is unlocked. "Looks like someone has been here before us," Loss observes. "Wouldn't be surprised if it was only some teens just looting the copper," explains Cole. E's not supposed to be capitalized. They push the door open and are faced with the rusty metal staircase. Dust covers the railing and rats scurry across the floor. The floor shows weeds breaking through the cracks of the concrete. The building looks like it could fall apart at the drop of a hat. Lost gestures towards the door with a sweep of his hand. "After you." "Why, thank you, good sir," Cole said with a chuckle. They make their way up the stairs into the second floor and walk through the open door at the top of the staircase. Loss and Cole enter the room and are greeted with a rush of cold air. The room had tables covered with clean tarps. A table fan plugged into the wall, whirring in the far end of the room next to another table with a computer on top. A industrial elevator waits on the left side of the room. Come on. "Someone has been here very recently," Cole states after taking in the new surroundings. "What makes you say that?" Loss inquires, not noticing what he's seeing. "There was dust on that staircase. Here all of the tarps are freshly clean, and someone has been paying the electric bill if that fan is still running," Cole explains. Cole walks over and grabs one of the tarps. He pulls it off in a grand fashion, as if revealing a prize that someone had just run or a magician finishing an act. Under the tarp is 5 papers with pictures of people paper-clipped to them. He picks them up and starts skimming through what is written on it. "Cole, aren't these the people from the bank heist a couple months ago?" Loss asks, concerned. Cole walks over and grabs the papers from Loss's hands. He flips through the files one after the other. Kittie, Dino, Urban, Alex, Nas. Cole reads off each person's name as he reads their file. Yeah, they all got off scot-free because we didn't have enough evidence to convict them. There was one other person that was charged, though. His name isn't here. It was Morgan. Morgan was the one that was charged. These criminals are out there, and it still looks like someone is interested in them. Why are there pictures here, though? Loss asks as he walks over to the room. looking for anything to give a hint as to what is going on. If the person that was here is our copycat, then I'd say we just found the players in the next game. Cole says if there was any emotion in his voice, Lost couldn't tell. Lost walks over to the table with the computer on it and looks at it. On it, he could see 4 people standing in the room. A pile of skulls in the center. Come on. Sentence fragments. Gotta watch that pesky grammar. He immediately realizes that these are other people from the bank robbery. Cole, Lost calls. Cole rushes over and looks at the screen. Lost looks at Cole and says, I think these people aren't the players from the next game. These are the players for the game going on right now. Chapter 3. As the static clears, the puppet from before appears on the screen. Hello, the puppet says, and welcome to your next tests. If you look on the corners of your ceiling, you will see nail bombs. These bombs will detonate after 2 minutes. Your only chance to survive is hidden in the skulls in front of you. And 3 of these skulls are keys that can unlock each of the pipes on the side of the room. 1 key goes to 1 point. Pipe, have you learned from your past mistakes, or will you be the odd one out? Live or die, make your choice. Then the screen cuts out and is replaced with a 2-minute timer that begins counting down. Nas immediately turns and grabs the skull and checks it at the back wall, almost hitting Alex in the process. It explodes into a jumble of dust and bone when it hits. Hey, watch it, asshole! Alex yells at Nas. Nas in turn grabs the skull and throws it at Alex, which hits his head, knocking him down. The skull drops to the floor and rolls slightly. After this, Nas goes back to grabbing skulls, now 2 at a time, and throwing them at the wall. I ain't dying because you guys are too scared to move. Nas yells as he continues to toss skulls, not looking to see if any of them have the keys that he needs. Alex lays on the floor, still recovering from the sudden blow to the head. He moves slightly, but he still hasn't gotten up. Urban runs over to the side of the room where Nas was throwing the skulls and starts to look through the remains of what is left on the skulls. He turns over a chunk of a skull and sees a key with the letter L on it. Kittie stands perfectly still, frozen with fear. She hasn't moved since the video edited on the television, which now has 1 minute and 11 seconds remaining. Urban runs over to the left pipe and tries the key on it. The grate opens with a loud creak and Urban climbs in, closing it behind him. He scoots to the very back of the pipe and curls up in a ball. Nas, too distracted by smashing skulls, doesn't notice and continues throwing the skulls. Alex moans as he reaches for the skull that Nas hit him with. Kittie, now broken out of her trance, runs over and grabs 2 skulls. She runs over to a pipe and hits it on the floor. It doesn't break the first time, so she tries the second time. The skull breaks and it reveals that it was empty. Kittie moves on to the second skull she grabs and tries to break it. Nas, almost out of skulls, continues throwing them at the wall. Kittie smashes her skull and finds a key inside it with a letter R on it. She runs over and unlocks the gate on her right pipe. The timer has 30 seconds remaining, and Alex finally gets a hold of his skull and tries to stand up. Nas walks over and snatches the skull from Alex and smashes it on the floor, revealing a Kittie key with the letter M on it. Sorry, buddy, it's kill or be killed, Nas hisses at Alex. Suddenly, Kittie hits Nas in the back of the head with a skull. Nas drops to the floor, dropping his key in the process. Well, then you die, you fucking asshole. Kittie screams at Nas as she runs back to her pipe. Alex grabs Nas's key and runs over to the middle pipe. He unlocks it and climbs it in just as the timer ticks down to 5 seconds. Nas! Wait! Nas yells as he stands up, but he's cut off by the explosion from the nail bombs. The room shakes and dust fills the room, everyone visibly completely gone. As the dust clears, Kittie crawls to the front of her pipe and is greeted by Nas's mangled corpse. Hundreds of nails sticking out of his body, blood spilling out onto the floor. His clothes torn by the nails and his face void of any remaining life. Kittie, Urban, and Alex slowly step out of their safe havens and onto the hard floor. Nails are embedded into the wall with Nas's corpse lying in this. Wait, I just thought of something. Why didn't 2 of them?
The same tube.
Yeah. Did it say that the tubes were only fit for 1 person? One key goes to 1 pipe. Yes. So that doesn't make any sense. Like I said, it doesn't say that 1 pipe can only hold 1 person. Kitty, Urban, and Alex slowly step out of their safe havens and onto the hard floor. Nails are embedded into the walls with Noz's corpse lying in the center. You killed him. Alex manages to get out after staring at Noz's body for what seemed like an enemy. Eternity. He was an asshole anyway. He was gonna kill you, no telling if he would do the same to me later on. Kitty explains, her voice showing that she was emotionally wrecked. All color drained from her face heart racing faster and faster. I just killed him. I just killed Noz. What kind of fucking person am I? Am I a killer? I'm a killer. I'm just like Noz. Kitty thinks to herself. Why are you doing this to us? Urban screams at the blank television. We did this to ourselves. Alex sobs, his voice sounding like all life was just sucked from his body. I haven't killed anyone. We didn't even keep the money. We ditched it. I wasn't the only one that killed them. Urban yells at Alex. No, but if we didn't try to rob the bank, they'd still be alive. Alex responds. Oh, so what? Is this revenge? Urban screams at the television. Or do you just enjoy watching other people suffer? You sadistic fucking asshole. Have you not been watching the news recently? Kitty asks Urban angrily. Sorry, no. I've been kinda held up with more important things. Urban spits back. A serial killer had just been kidnapping people and torturing them. Do you remember the Jigsaw killer from 14 years ago? Kitty explains. Yeah, John Kramer. That psycho died from cancer. His motive was fucking crazy. What about him? Urban asks, confused by the question. Well, his motive also spawned quite the fan base. There are people that agree with his methods and praise him like a savior. I think we're being tested. Jigsaw only tested people that he didn't appreciate, that he thought didn't appreciate the life they were given. I love my life. I have a great life. Sure, it sucks right now, but I'm okay. Well, Kitty points to the television. He doesn't think so. We almost ruined our lives with that heist. Yet I was still into stores and stole. Yet I still went into stores and stole things. I assume you two haven't done the same. Have done the same. I haven't stolen anything though. Urban yells. What have you done then? Urban asks. None of your concern. Urban sneered after a long pause. Whatever we have done, we have to move on if we want to live. Kitty urged. Let's keep going. Kitty, Urban, and Alex, after lingering in the moon room for a few more minutes, walk into the next room. The door slams behind them and another television turns on, revealing the hellish Jigsaw puppet again. Transition. Lost and Cold storm into the room. They are heading into the evidence storage to see if they can find out where the game is being held. They walk up to the counter and see Sergeant Josh sitting there working on a crossword puzzle. Hey there, Lost and Cole. What can I do for you? Josh asks when he notices them. We need the location of every game that Jigsaw played 14 years ago. Lost says impatiently. Every one of them? There must be 100 of them, Josh says. Then send me a map of them. There are people's lives at stake, Lost yells. All right. There are no commas here. I am sending them to you now. Make sure you let Chief Derry know about this. Josh says, yeah, we called it in. Officers are already at the location where we found the evidence, Cole explains. What happened? Josh asks, clearly confused and out of the loop. Don't worry, you'll find out soon enough. Lost says he walks out of the room, Cole right on his heels. The duo walks into Cole's office. Cole plops down in his seat with Lost looking over his shoulder. As Cole logs into his computer, Lost notices a scar on the back of his neck. Cole, what is this scar from? Lost asks, concerned for his partner. Don't worry about it, Cole says, brushing the question off. It's in the past. Alright, Lost says, still concerned that Cole is hiding something. Ooh. Cole is going through his files to find the map, scrolling past folders. Blueprints, hardware, photos, downloads, notes, maps. I'm gonna have to keep this foreshadowing in mind. Here we go, maps. Here we go, maps. Cole says, opening the folder and enlarging the map of the city. The map is speckled with red dots, each representing a game created by the original Jigsaw. Wait, you already had this? Lost asks. Alright, so what are you looking for here? Cole says, is ignoring Lost's question. Okay. I'm looking to see if there's another location that Kramer used a lot as well. If this is a copy of a cat, they might just be trying to be just like that twisted killer by trapping people, Lost explains. Some people think that Jigsaw's methods saved people. Also, they aren't traps, they're tests. He only tested people that didn't appreciate the life they were given, Cole corrects. Whatever, what is that place? Lost asks, pointing to a spot on the map cluttered with dots. That's the abandoned house on the edge of town, Colt explains. Jigsaw had many tests take place there. Well, I hope we find out where the game is being played there, Lost says. Jesus. Probably gonna have to take a break after this one. Halfway through. Well, I hope we found out where that game is being played here. There, Lost says. Let's get going. Those 5 people don't look like they're going to make it out, Cole says, walking towards the door. Wait, there were 5? I saw 4, Lost inquires. One of them died. You can see his body on the camera, Cole informs. We better hurry then, Lost says, rushing out the door. Now I have to go to the bathroom. I will continue this in a few minutes. I am back, and I have had a sufficient break. This is going to be a long night. Chapter 4. The television turns on, illuminating the survivors' faces. Welcome, the Jigsaw puppet says. By now you all should know why you are here. You all have something in common, and this game shall be your rebirth. In front of you, you will see a pit. It is 15 feet deep, just enough that you will not be able to climb back up alone. At the bottom is your key for exiting this room. In the hole is a pressure plate that will open the door in front of you, but that same pressure plate will also begin to close the walls in on the room, sealing the room, closing the hole, and crushing anything remaining in the room. Who will be the one to save the others, and can you trust each other enough to survive? Or will your ambitions get the best of you? The choice is yours. The puppet finishes and the screen cuts to black. Kittie starts to look around the room. Just as the puppet said, there is a hole about 6 feet in diameter. In the corner of the room is a table with another box on it. Just like in the first room. Alex walks over to the table and looks into the box. Inside, he sees a magazine for a handgun and another note. Unlike the first one, this one says, "Have you learned to trust?" Another piece to a gun. What the hell is this for? Alex says to himself. He takes out the bullet and loads it into the magazine, then storing it in his pocket again. One of us has to get in the hole so the others can move on, Urban says out loud. What? No, there has to be another way, Kittie explains. Urban walks over to Alex and punches him. Alex stumbles back toward the hole. What the hell are you doing? Alex yells, placing a hand on the spot that Urban hit. You were going to get in that hole, Urban yells, pointing to the hole. Listen, maybe there's another way. Remember how we said we had to trust each other? Alex counters. Yeah, I trust that you are going to have to get into that hole. Urban steps forward. You have to the count of 3. 1, please, no, I don't want to die. 2, Urban continues. Please, I am begging you. Urban starts to say, but is cut off by Kittie, who kicks him in the back, sending him stumbling forward and falls into the hole. A loud thud is heard by Urban's body as he hits the bottom of the hole. Kittie looks down and sees that Urban hit the ground head first, but his lifeless body pressuring down on the pressure plate. You saved me. Why? Alex asked, dumbfounded. We have to trust each other. He didn't have any trust in us. There was no telling what he would have done in the future, Kittie explains. Just as she finished, the door opens up and the wall starts to tremble. The room is closing in. Come on, Kittie says, grabbing Alex's hand and dragging him through the door. The run into the new room and slam the door behind them. After waiting for a minute, the rumbling stops. The room they were just in no longer exists. They have to keep moving forward. Interesting scenario, but I doubt it would be practical for a Jigsaw to set up. That would require some serious hardware. So whoever this Jigsaw is must be quite the engineer. Gunner, are you the Jigsaw? Engineering major. The new room they were in had a door on the left with a keypad next to it and the word exit in red glowing letters above it. On the right side of the room were 2 closed doors, and in front of the room rests a table with a box, just like the last rooms. In the middle of the room hangs a tape recorder with the words "Play Me" written on it. An exit! We made it! Kittie exclaims, running to the exit door. She tries to open it, but it won't budge. It's locked, she says, then sees the keypad next to the Door needs a 5-digit code to unlock. Alex walks to the table and opens the box. Inside the shell of it is the shell of a pistol and a note that says "Final Test." Herman takes the gun and loads the magazine and bullet that he had been saving before. Kittie takes out the keys from the first room and tries looking for a keyhole on the door. Fumbling with the keys, she realizes something that strikes fear into her core. Alex? Kittie says, as if she had seen a ghost. What? What happened? What happened? Alex asks, worried. The keys. The keys that we used to unlock the collars. They're all the same! Kittie screams. Lost speeds through the streets toward the abandoned house on the edge of the town. Tires screaming at every turn. Take it easy, man. You're gonna get yourself killed. You gotta worry about your own life too. Cody says, while White chuckling a hand to keep yourself from final. What? Cole says while White knuckling a handle to keep himself from flying all over the place. I just read that wrong. How can you say that when people's lives are at risk? Lost counters, speeding through the streets. After breaking many speed limits, they arrive at the house. Lost jumps out of the car and runs up to the door. Lost, your vests! Colt calls out to him. Lost ignores his partner and kicks down the door, gun raised, ready for action. He sweeps across the floor, peeking in closets and checking every corner. About a minute, Cole walks in wearing his vest. You need to slow down, man. You won't be able to save anyone when you're dead. Cole argues, clearly upset at his partner's arrogance. Cole, come look at this, Lost says, ignoring his partner's concerns. Cole walks into the room and Lost shows him a tape player with the words "Play Me" written on it. Well, what are you waiting for? Play it, Cole says. Lost hits the play button and a scratchy voice begins to speak. Hello, Detective Lost. You became a cop in order to protect the people. You always felt that unruly people were the cause of all the chaos in this city. The voice continues. I may not be the original, but he saved my life, and I shall continue his work. You may call me Jigsaw. Jigsaw continues. The people that are being tested have thrown their lives away and lost all appreciation for the life that they have been given. Yet you still see them as victims. They did this to themselves, and now they will be reborn. Inside the desk is their location. You may do with it what you will, but heed my warning. Your arrogance shall be your undoing. I ask you, who values their life more, you or a criminal that has theirs thrown away? The choice is yours. The tape cuts out. What do you want to do, Lost? Cole asks. Your call. Lost pauses for a moment and then runs over to the desk. He opens the drawer and inside is the paper with an address written on it. On the back of the paper is the last message which Lost reads aloud. You hold the key to their survival, but they must be the ones to choose to take it. What does that mean? Lost asks his partner. I hope that you would know, Cole responds. Well, let's get going. These people are going to make it much longer. Lost says, rushing out the door. Cole following him out. Chapter 5. What do you mean they're all the same? I don't understand, Cole, Alex says. Well, Alex says, clearly confused. We only needed to get one of the key in the first room to unlock all of our colors, Kittie explains, tearing up a bit. We didn't trust each other and Dino died because of it. Alex, still trying to absorb this new information, walks over to the tape recorder and pulls it off the string and hits play. A familiar voice from the other room begins to speak. Congratulations, you have made it to the end, the voice says. I'm sure by now you have learned that it is better to work as a team than to work against each other. Have you learned from your mistakes and begun to trust each other? The exit requires a 5-digit code. In alphabetical order by name, enter the amount of lives that were taken by your hand from your poisonous crimes. After entering the code, you may exit. However, if you are not able to admit your crimes, you may put your freedom in the hands of another. On the other side of the room rests 2 doors. One person must enter each door, and the other side you will be forced to make a decision that will determine if you have learned to trust others. The choice is yours. The voice cuts out after finishing its instructions. Kittie and Alex don't say anything for what seems like and eternity. What the hell? The grammar in this story just took a nosedive. The silence is finally broken by the opening of the 2 doors on the opposite side of the room. Alex. All of us have survived. The keys were all the same. The pipes could have fit multiple people, and we could have worked together. I called it. And we could have worked together to pull someone out of that pit. We didn't trust each other, and three of us died because of it, Kittie says while shaking Alex's shoulders. Dino, Urban, Nas, all of them dead because of us, Alex says quietly. The realization of their mistakes sucked all of the remaining life out of him, leaving him as a husk of what he was. Come on, we need to win this game for them. We can't let their deaths be for nothing, Kittie says, dragging Alex towards the right, now open door. Alex, getting a hold of himself, walks in through the door. Afterwards, Kittie walks through the other one, and the door is closed behind them. The rooms were about the size of an old-time phone booth with another door on their right. A window in the door made it so Alex and Kittie could see each other. In front of them was a hole large enough for them to put their arm in. After taking a moment to observe their new surroundings, a voice cuts on over the speaker in the room. If you haven't learned to trust each other before, this test will determine if you have learned to trust each other. It's kind of a redundant sentence. At the back of the armhole in front of you is a handle. If you both want to make it out of here alive, you will have to work together. In 1950, two men created a game that you may know as the Prisoner's Dilemma. Ooh. I actually learned about this a while ago. I can predict what this is going to be. Two criminals are arrested and imprisoned. Both of them are separate. Spell check, come on. And are given the same deal. If one of them sells out their friend, the betrayer will be set free, but their friend would be served 3 years in prison. If they both sell each other out, both of them would serve 2 years in prison. If they both don't say anything, they both would serve only 1 year in prison. I don't think this is exactly what it was, but the handle at the back of the armhole is your way of making your choices as to if you will betray the other or work together. Turn and hold it to the left if you decide to cooperate, and turn it to the right if you decide to betray. If only one of you betrays the other, the betrayer will be let out, and the person that decided to cooperate will be suffocated by a toxic nerve gas. If you both betray each other, you will both be suffocated. However, if you both decide to cooperate with each other, you will both be released with one catch. For both of you to be released, you will both have to make a sacrifice. Are you willing to put yourself in harm's way for each other, or will you think of only of yourself? Live or die, make your choice. After the voice cuts out, Kittie stares at the armhole and looks over at Alex. Sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice? Kittie has no idea what Jigsaw meant, but she knew that she would need to trust Alex, and Alex needed to trust her. Kittie looks down at the armhole, reaches in and turns the handle to the left. In front of her, through another window in the screen, sees a light turn on. Next to it, about 5 seconds later, another light turns on. Suddenly, both lights turn green, and Kittie realizes we both chose to cooperate. Now we need to make a sacrifice. A whirling starts in the room, and Kittie feels a sharp pain in her left arm in the hole. She screams as the pain gets worse. Her arm was being cut off. This was their sacrifice. Kittie could only barely hear Alex's pain-filled screams over her own. She screamed louder and louder, tears streaming down her face. Pain radiates up her arm and through her entire body. Then it just stops, all feeling in her arm gone. The nerves in her arm all fried from pain that went numb. She moves her arm, but it doesn't move with her. It stays inside the hole, and she moves away. The door next to her opens, allowing Alex and her to move to the new room together. They both take 2 steps in and drop to the floor next to each other. They just lay there and cry the remaining arms wrapped around each other. We did it, Kittie managed to say through tears. We learned to trust each other, Alex said. Kittie and Alex, after waiting for a while, decided to wrap up their rooms to stop the blood flow, and then took a look around the room. Next to the door in the room was written in red was the phrase, "Loss is the key to your survival." After trying to open the door, they noticed it was locked. A keyhole sits underneath the handle. Loss? What the hell is a loss? Kittie yells. Suddenly, they hear a door close behind them, but when they look to see which door it was, they see both doors still open. Did you hear that? Kittie asked quietly, tears staining her face. Yeah, someone is here with us, Alex says, pulling out the gun he had been holding onto. Where did you get that? Kittie quietly hisses. I found the pieces to it in the previous rooms. Shh. Why the fuck is there a plus sign here? Come on, did you even read this? That's actually new levels of pathetic right there. It's getting closer, Alex states. The sound of the footsteps gets louder and louder. Alex gets ready and aims at the door, ready to shoot whoever came through. I ain't dying after all that I went through, Alex says to himself. Lost and Cole arrived at the address on the note. The address led them to an abandoned factory deep inside the industrial district. Windows were broken. Graffiti peppered the walls. Bricks and cement cracked everywhere, and every piece of metal was rusted. The car skids to a stop, sending dirt clouds into the air. Lost throws the car into park and leaps out of the car, running into the building. Lost, wait, you forgot your... Cole calls out to his partner, but gets cut off as Lost enters the building. Whatever Cole had to say can wait. People's lives were at stake, and he was going to save them. He runs down a dark, cold hallway, the walls all with painted arrows on them. He passes another room that looks like it was just used as a freezer. On the floor, he sees the body of a dead woman frozen on the floor. As Lost continues down the hallway, he reaches a T-junction. An arrow points to the left. Just as he starts down the left path, a blood-curdling scream echoes down the right path. Immediately, Lost spins around and bolts towards the scream. Halfway down, he starts hearing another scream from the same direction. He passes many other horrifying contraptions along the way, from helmets with Frankenstein-like bolts to what looks like a Venus flytrap mask with nails on the inside. Dried blood speckles the walls and cobwebs hang in every door. Rats scurry across the floor, almost tripping Lost as he speeds down the hallway. Lost, where are you? Cole calls out. Where has he been? Lost thinks to himself. Here! Lost yells in response. After running for another 100 feet, making many twists and turns, he comes to a large metal door. He grabs the handle and opens it with a loud screech. He enters a room with 3 doors, one to the right and one to the left of him. A table rests along the wall on his left. Once he fully enters the room, the door behind him slams shut and locks behind him. After that, the right door on the far wall closes with a click as well. Startled, Lost pulls out his gun and slowly walks towards the left open door on the far wall, one step at a time, ready to leap into action. He was going to catch whoever was behind this, no matter what. The steps continue, huh? Getting closer and closer. Alex and Kittie lay on the ground. Alex using his remaining arm to hold up his gun, ready to shoot the intruder. You've only got one shot at this. Be ready. Kittie whispers, all color in her body gone. Come on, there needs to be a comma there. I know, shut up! Alex hisses, still in pain. Blood loss clearly starts to take its toll on Kittie as she rests her head on the hard ground. Step, step. The footsteps echo around the room as the intruder gets closer. Steps, step. Suddenly, a tall man steps from around the corner wearing a uniform. Bang! Alex fires off his gun, hitting a man in the chest. The unfamiliar man drops to his knees and fires a shot at Alex, hitting him square on the head. Alex's head hits to the floor with a thud, and the man falls to the floor. His gun clatters across the floor. Alex, no! Kittie calls out as she sees Alex get shot. Tears stream down her face. Kittie manages to drag herself over to the stranger and sees the name tag on his uniform. Detective Lost. Lost? Kittie says to herself, calling the name. Lost is the key. No. Kittie reaches into the detective's chest pocket exactly where the bullet hit him and pulls out a broken key. No, no, no! Kittie screams. Her only way to escape was just destroyed. She couldn't trust that someone would help them, and it cost Alex and her their lives. Kittie looks over and sees another man in the same outfit standing in the doorway. Detective. Except this time she recognizes this one. His tag reads Detective Cole. You were the last person I saw before I blacked out last night. You did this to us. Kittie yells. Cole didn't say anything. He just walks over to the door and looks back at the Kittie laying on the floor and says 2 words that will haunt Kittie for the rest of his life. Game over, and Cole slams the door, leaving Kittie to her fate. To be continued. Thanks to Lasmon, Kittie, Joshnik, Morgan Freeman, Enternode, Alex, blah 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 blah, and my dogs. Why are you thanking me? As far as I'm aware, I'm not even involved with the story. But in any case, with the second half of the story done, I have to go to the bathroom again. And when I come back, I'll continue with the next one. Although, alright. Well, this story is done, but But before I move on to the next one, I want to kind of do a summary of just while these stories are still fresh in my mind, kind of say what I think about these. These two are jokes. These should never have been submitted. Uh, this is. Why did you write this? Like, that's a legitimate question. It's not even 500 words. This was funny. I will admit, this was kind of funny. But. At the same time, it doesn't follow the theme, does it? Because it's supposed to be either an event in heist history or a superhero story. We have not come across any superhero stories. But, yeah. This is just weird. This one, nothing happened in this one. I'm still confused as to, like, what the point in the story was. I guess to convey that I was an annoying douchebag. That's about all I got from this. This one, fuck you for writing this. Honestly. And this one, which is the first real major story that... Well, I'm sure we've got a few good ones coming up. The way the person who organized this event set it up is that the first few are the ones that are just random shit, and then it goes into the good ones, and then at the end just ends off with like the ones that are funny, I guess. Mine, for example, is all the way down here. So the plot was interesting. It was riddled with a lot of grammatical errors that were really distracting, especially since oftentimes it interrupts the flow of like me trying to read it out loud. You know, when me fucking up myself doesn't, you know, mess it up. But this story, with Cole being the Jigsaw in this scenario, which was foreshadowed, that was done fairly well, but at the same time it introduces some continuity issues. Just some issues in general. I'd go over what I thought those issues were in detail, but I don't want to spend too long in the story, but otherwise, it's a pretty good job. I think the person that reviewed the story should have checked the grammar a little bit better. Like, okay, legit, this person did not even read the story if they didn't catch that plus sign that was randomly attached out of nowhere at the end. Like, honestly. The next one is Slimy Sabotage by Kittie Strider. The first thing that comes to mind when seeing this title is revenge sex. If this is an erotica, then I am completely okay with that. You are suggesting. Last edit was made 9 days ago by J.K. Strider. Viewing. Slimy Sabotage, written by Kittie Strider, hashtag 4001, reviewed by Retired Orphan, hashtag 3926. Chapter 1. Ooh, this is chapters, too. Icy fingers gripped my arm in the darkness, their sharp claws digging into my fragile flesh. Blood began beating. What the fuck is this? It's a B. Looks like. Use a better font. Come on. Beating up. bright red drops of hot liquid slowly beginning to drip from the punctures left behind. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that whatever was happening wasn't good. It was horrible. The pain I felt was agonizing. It was as if 100 tiny razor blades were digging into me at once. I allowed myself to be pulled through the darkness. I didn't move, but shouldn't this be a period or a semicolon? I didn't move, rather let my feet drag across the floor. I didn't even know where I was, let alone what was going on. I heard the noise of a heavy metal door being pushed open, but I couldn't see anything. I tasted copper in my mouth. My braces were cutting at the soft flesh inside. When the dragging stopped, I was thrown into a cage. The room was pitch black, but I could see pairs of bright yellow orbs surrounding me. I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was going to be tortured until I couldn't breathe anymore. I was going to die, locked away in a cage where I couldn't even stand up. The bars were placed maybe 2 inches apart, and the measurements had to be about 3 feet wide, 3 feet long, and 3 feet high. That's fucking tiny. Wait a minute. A cubic yard? I'm like 6'1". I suppose if I went into the fetal position, I could maybe fit in there. As soon as the lights turned on, I heard screaming. Pain screaming, like someone was being sliced and rolled through lemon juice. Ew. I covered my ears with my hands, but it didn't help anything. The noises still surpassed all barriers that I had put up to try to stop them. There was blood everywhere, all over my arms and hands, all over my face. A man came up to me. He was covered in some lime-colored ooze that was shining in the minute amount of light. If I didn't know him any better, I'd think he was sneering at me with rotted and crooked teeth. I was going to be the next one in his grasp. I just knew it. He dragged his fingers across the metal bars of the cage, causing a ting-ting-ting sort of noise. My breathing stopped as I tried to push myself as far away from the door of the cage as I possibly could. I thought if he couldn't reach me, I'd be safe. It's a cubic yard. You're not going anywhere. I'd never been more wrong in my entire life. He opened the door and reached into the cave swiftly, grabbing me by my bloodied arms and pulling me into his slime-covered chest. It was sticky and smelled of rotting fruit. Some of the slime slid into my mouth, causing me to gag as I struggled to get up. None of my efforts sufficed as he continued to drag me into the dark hallway branching off of the room. What the fuck? Seriously, what sadistic people are writing these stories all of a sudden? Ugh. Oh, I forgot to mention this with Cole's story. I don't know what event this is representing. Because it's obviously not a superhero story. I thought I saw a light at the end, but he pulled me to the left before I could even attempt to make it out of his grasp. Left, right, left, 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 right, right, left. It felt he was trying to disorient me. We were going in full circles before he made a final right turn, literally throwing me into a dark room and snickering. He closed the door with a loud thud before I started looking around. The walls were sticky and wet. The ceiling was dripping a clear liquid that looked like water, but it sizzled and turned into a vapor once it touched the ground below. I put my hands on the wall, walking around it in a circle, or rather a square, before I found the handle to the door. I tugged it on it a few times with no luck before I tried pushing, with no luck. I started to give up, crawling along the floor to find a dry spot, sitting there and hugging my knees as I continued to stare in for what I thought was the direction of the door. How long had I been here? How long had I gone without eating? My stomach made a loud noise, and my arms stung from the claw marks. I bit my bleeding lip, brushing my hair out of my eyes as I tried to regain my strength. I didn't know if I was going to make it out alive, let alone be able to stand up again. Seconds turned to minutes, turned to hours, before the door finally opened again. I'm sure there was a puddle of blood beneath me as I tried to lift my head. At some point, I had fallen on my side and lost consciousness. I don't didn't remember anything that happened after I sat down. My mind was kind of fuzzy and my mouth was dry. There was crusted blood all over my skin, but at least that meant that my bleeding had stopped. I heard a tiny gasp as someone slowly made their way over to me. They crouched down and gently reached a hand out to me, moving my hair from my face and looking into my blue eyes with their dark blue ones. I was breathing shallowly. My entire body was shaking at a rate that would have struck the 9.2 on the Richter magnitude scale. That's an interesting way to describe that. I couldn't feel a single square inch of my body. I was on the verge of death before she slowly pulled out a small vial of water, lifting my top half into her arms and pulling the vial to my lips, helping me drink a small amount. I didn't know he was doing things like this. I heard what had happened, and I came here as soon as I could to see the people he had in captivity. You're not the only one he's doing this to, but you have to stay quiet. You can't let him know that I'm here. Her eyes watered slowly before she took out the new emptied vial and slid it back into her pocket. Oh, I just realized something. I'm I'm D, and I'm going to make sure you get out if you're alive. Is this Slimebeast? Because if this is Torm, then the way she worded this actually makes sense. Also, this is 2 periods and not 3, I just noticed. I didn't even notice because the fucking garbage font. There was a loud noise before I could even react in the slightest, and she quickly put me down where I was and darted out of the room, closing and locking the door just as I fell silent again. My mouth was less dry, and I was conscious, but for how long? How long would it take before I lost consciousness again? The door reopened and the slimy guy walked in. He still smelled of rotting fruit, and I wanted to throw up when the rancid smell hit my nose. I heard screams from the rooms around me before he closed the door to my room, sneering at me again before he walked over to me, grabbing me by my hair and pulling me up as hard as I could. My legs tried to give out under me, but the pressure of him holding onto my hair was so great that I had to force myself to stay upright. If I was going to die, I wasn't going to die by scalping. He tightened his grip as he snarled. His eyes blank and white, his breath almost as rancid as his slime smelled. I glared at him weakly, struggling to keep my balance as he dragged me over to a chair in the middle of the room. Had I not noticed that earlier? He sat me down, adding restraints even though I was far too weak to even struggle and get free. I growled deep into my chest, but that's all I could muster. I felt as if I was having an out-of-body experience, struggling to get a deep breath before I allowed my eyes to open. "Open your eyes," he growled at me. I said, "Open your eyes!" I opened my eyes right as he slapped me across the face. I weakly spit out the bloodied liquid, my head light and dizzy from a lack of nutrition. "Tell me everything you know, or you will never see your friends and family again." He pulled out a small blade, touching the cold metal against my arms. I stayed silent, not knowing what he was talking about. My braces felt like they were barely holding on anymore, and I lost my glasses somewhere along the way. Everything looked fuzzy. I couldn't focus. He dug the blade into my flesh as I screamed. "Stop! Stop!" Oh, I spit on my fucking keyboard. That broke the moment. Ugh. "Stop! Stop! I don't know what you want from me. Please stop!" I tried pulling my arm away to no avail, struggling at the restraints as he kept digging the blade into my flesh, starting to drag it across the pale and milky skin on my arm. Tears began rolling down my face, stinging the bruises and cuts left across my cheeks. I began to scream louder as he applied more pressure. The blade was easing through my skin like a hot knife easing through warm butter. I was going to die if I didn't give him what he wanted, but what did he want? "You're lying, and I don't play with liars." He growled again, removing the blade from my right arm only to move it to my left and repeat his instructions. My arms were on fire, and I felt a tingling sensation in my fingertips. I screamed louder and louder until he slapped me across the face again, holding the blade in his hand. I felt a large gash. It left a large gash in my right cheek, the blood running down my neck and the chest before absorbing into my shirt. I cried harder, the salty water beginning to burn even more than it had before the slapped. "Aw, you were so good for a while, but then..." Damn. I don't know if he realized I didn't know what he wanted me to tell him, but he backed away and growled at me before leaving my room and slamming the door shut. I was still restrained in the chair, my blood rolling down and beginning to pool underneath me. I could hear the plop, plop, plop with every drop that dripped. The entire world went black. Chapter 2. Is that a semicolon? It is! That's not how you do it. Come on. You could do better than that. Hours passed before I woke again. The blood from my arms and face caused my skin to still be slightly dampened, but for the most part it had all dried up. I was still restrained in the chair, and my head was even lighter than it had been before I passed out. I tried sitting up, but no matter how I tried to get comfortable, I just couldn't move. I heard the lock on the door turning, and I closed my eyes as tight as I possibly could. I couldn't bear to look at his eyes again. The crazed look on his face as he raged around was nearly mental. I whimpered quietly, readying myself for imminent torture before I heard the door open. Someone threw something inside before slamming the door shut, and the room went silent again. Minutes passed before I opened my eyes slightly, looking around before relaxing as I saw a motionless form lying by the pools of blood underneath me. I opened my mouth to speak, but the pain from my injuries was too intense. Instead of speaking, I tried to move around as much as I could without paining myself, trying to make any type of noise to see who was thrown into my room. If it was D, I wouldn't have any luck trying getting out alive. At least I didn't think I would. I kept moving nonetheless, trying as I realized time was beginning to run out. I needed to get out of that chair before I passed out again, or else I wouldn't have chances of survival in general. Right as I started to give up, I heard a quiet groan. It was a masculine groan, so I suspected that it was a male figure. It was hard to tell, seeing as how I didn't have my glasses and the room was too dark to make out anything other than the basic shapes. The figure started to sit up, slipping as one of his hands fell into the puddle of my blood. He fell with a soft thud before he got up, quickly recognizing the smell of blood in the air. He was alarmed. I could tell by the noises he was making. I tried speaking again, but all that came out was a quiet puff of air, followed by a pained whimper. I tried moving again. I wanted him to come closer to me and help me out of the restraints. He seemed to notice he wasn't alone when he heard my whimper, and he stepped over to me, hesitating the entire time. I don't know if he was scared of me, or if he didn't want to slip into my blood again. But either way, he was scared. I shifted again, the restraints rattling slightly as I let out a pained noise. I started crying silently as he reached over, his hands shaking as he started to undo my restraints. Now, I'm going to go ahead and, who is this? It could be me. I don't know. If it's Torm, the only... It could be me. But at the same time, I think it's more likely maybe, what else could it be? I doubt it's Val. I doubt it's anyone that Kittie doesn't know. Because she's the one who wrote the story, right? Yeah. So this mysterious figure. I want to take a guess here. Tormental doesn't give a shit about Dylan. He doesn't give a shit about tick tick tick. If he's no, okay. Well, we do know that he's torturing Kittie for some information about where his friends are. So he's probably looking for public enemy number 1 on his list, which is probably Lasmon or me. I can safely rule out both of these and say, this is Cody. I'm going to go ahead and guess. It's okay. I'm going to get you out of here. Where are we? He looked at me, expecting a response as I just silently shook my head in a way of saying that I didn't know. He looked confused, moving to my other arm as he undid the restraints on my right. Can you speak? I shook my head again, weakly lifting my shaking right arm and tapping on my throat, whimpering again silently. He seemed to understand, nodding as he helped me out of the chair. He set me on the ground where my blood hadn't seeped, looking over me as he expected to see me clearly if he stared at me through more of the dark abyss. "Are you from Heist too?" he asked me, facing me as I sat down. I nodded again, looking towards the door before looking at him again. The ground was dirty enough that if he could see, I could have written on the dirt, but the lights were still out, and I didn't know how to turn them on. I swallowed thickly, tasting the coppery taste of blood as I tried to speak. "Kittie," was all I could muster. I winced at the feeling. My body started to shiver as I hugged my knees. I was uneasy. I didn't know if I could trust him or not. But if he was from Heights too, then why couldn't I trust him? He might not have known how to get. He might have known how to get out of here, how to get back home. He looked taken aback when he heard me say my name, as if he recognized it before. It didn't seem like I'd met him. I would have recognized his voice, but then again, I couldn't even remember what my own voice sounded like. He brought a shaky hand to my face, and I yelped quietly as he touched the cut on my cheek. I wasn't ready to feel human touches again. I just wanted to lay down and sleep. He looked worried, wiping the blood on his shirt. "Kittie, do you recognize me?" He asked me as a small crack of light began to peek through the tiny window on the door. Someone was coming to get one of us and take us away. Someone was going to take away my human contact. I looked at him, using the light to try to see his face clearer. It was so out of focus for my brain not computing things. As the door opened and Slime Guy walked in, I finally saw his face. Orpgab. Of fucking course it's Orphan. It's written by Kittie. that I overthought it so much. I just need to remember. Get down to the basics. It's Kittie. Of course it's fucking Orphan. Orpgab. No, that wasn't right. That wasn't his name. Why couldn't I say his name? The slime guy grabbed him before I could correct myself, pulling him up as he tried to struggle to get free. He looked at me with panic in his eyes as I shakily put a finger to my lips, tears falling from my eyes and onto my lap as I watched him get dragged away, the door slamming shut behind them as he disappeared into the darkness. So what was the point in throwing Orphan into the locked room in the first place? I didn't eat that night. I couldn't eat. Not when I knew he had my friends. Not when I knew that the things he was doing to me, he was doing to them. Orphan, Enternode, Loss. Did he have all three of them, too? I felt sick. I felt like I was going to throw up. I dragged myself to a corner, put my hands on the walls, and prepared myself. But nothing happened aside from dry heaving. More blood came from my throat that night. I needed to escape. I was still propped in my corner when the door opened again. I kept my hands on the walls as the room filled with the stench of rotting fruits. I could hear Orphan screaming. Now, hey, wait. I thought you couldn't remember his name. This is taught in first person. Screaming before Slimy slammed the door closed. I refused to look at him. Instead of keeping my face right where the two walls connected to the corner, I had to find a way to escape. I had to figure out his weakness or something. Unfortunately, he wasn't happy with me not noticing him. He wanted the attention. He wanted me to look at him and take in everything he had to offer. Yep. To be completely honest, I would have rather chucked a brick at his head than pay him any mind at all. It only infuriated him more when I still refused to look at him. So he grabbed my hair again and slammed my face into the corner as hard as he could. I heard a popping noise and let out a scream of agony as I let go and I fell backwards onto the floor, hitting the back of my head and the hard, cold ground below. Oh my god. The entire room was spinning as he began to pace, trying to figure out what he could do in order to get whatever information that he wanted. I was petrified. What was I going to do? Blood was pouring from my nose as my eyes tried to focus on him. He stopped, looking at me with his eyes narrowed before he growled and started to pace again. I groaned, trying to sit up and pinch my nose to not try and lose any more blood than I did the past few days. I'll kill your boyfriend if you don't tell me what I want to know. How about that? What if I told you that I would kill him right in front of you? How would you like that? He stopped and glared at me, kicking dirt in my face in his rage. Just hang him on the hooks right there and tie you up to watch you slowly bleed out. Or die from starvation. You decide. He grabbed my hair again and I tried scratching his arms, my nails just sliding along the lime-colored slime as he began to turn brown from mixing with my bright young red blood. He pushed his face close to mine, his breath an even stronger rotting fruit odor from the slime itself. Are you going to answer me, inbred? Little cunt. He snarled again, moving his other hand to grip out my throat, slowly applying more and more pressure until I was starting to see white spots in my vision. You're going to regret you ever moved to Heist. You're going to regret every decision you made in your lifetime, he said to me before he threw me back down, hitting my head on the ground again as I sank down to the floor. I gasped for air, reaching to my throat and holding it protectively as I tried to focus my vision. I'll get the answers out of you one day. I just haven't done enough to you yet. He turned away from me and stormed out of my room, slamming the door as hard as he could, which caused the loud thudding noise to echo. I stayed on the floor a while longer, making sure he was gone before I shakily stood up. I could feel a trickle of blood running down the back of my neck. I needed to make sure that I wasn't losing more blood this time. I couldn't risk losing so much I would end up dead in this place. I needed to find a way out. I needed to save my friends. I didn't know that how many people had locked away, but I knew he had an orphan locked in that room. I needed to get him out of there. There was no way he would be able to bear with the pain that Slimy was going to put him through. I could barely stand the pain that he was putting me through. I took a deep breath and wiped out the blood before I walked up to the door and tried to open it again. Nothing. I tried pulling, pushing, sliding. Nothing was working. I just had to wait until the next time it opened to make a run for it. I heard muffling screaming through the door and felt my eyes beginning to water. I knew the voice those screams were coming from. He had lost. I began to pound on the door, trying to draw attention over to me and maybe cease the torturous pain on loss, but my strength was always my disadvantage. My arms began burning as the stress of tore at the newly healing skin, scabs beginning to tear themselves apart as I hit the door as hard as I could. Blood began to trickle down both of my arms again and I hit the wall one last time, sliding down and hugging my knees as I began to cry. The screaming had gotten louder and I wasn't doing anything to help. I couldn't do anything to help. I was locked in this room, struggling to breathe clearly because of the dirt and dust. I heard noises from the outside of my door, and I moved out of the way, cradling my arms to my chest. If I was going to escape, I had to prepare to make a run for it as soon as the door opened, and that was exactly what I was going to do. I got up into the position to run, and as soon as the door slowly creaked open, I sprinted as fast as I could to get out. I ran into someone, just pushing as hard as I could before I came to the end of the hallway. I didn't know what room Slimy had my friends in, and I didn't know when he was going to return to me. Taking a deep breath, I pressed myself against a wall as all the lights went a bright red color. I heard someone's voice screaming that was a breach in the system, but I just kept myself pressed to the wall. As the voices grew nearer, I held my breath and prepared to lash out. I turned the corner quickly, punching some guy in the face and taking the gun from his hands as he fell over. Of course, I made sure that he was breathing before I continued on. Chapter 4. Orphan! I yelled. Orphan! 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 I yelled, walking down the hallway timidly. They were going to come after me at any moment. I just knew it. Loss! Enternode! Is anyone in here? I had to keep moving. I had to try to escape. I heard a muffled yell come from the door to my right as I stopped. I cocked the gun before I shoved the door open, wincing as my shoulder screamed at me in pain. Loss was sitting in a chair, much like the one I was sitting in earlier. He was barely conscious. I limped over to him, putting the gun down as I... Okay, who the fuck is texting me? Nothing important. Much like the one I was sitting in earlier, and he was barely conscious. I limped over to him, putting the gun down as I started to undo his restraints. We didn't have much time, so I was trying to rush myself as I did so. He yelped in pain as I accidentally applied pressure to the cut on his forearm that matched my twin one's. I let out a growl from deep in my chest, pulling the last restraint free and tugging him to stand up. I motioned for him to stay silent as I bent down and picked up the gun again. I went over to the door, making sure Lost was right behind me, before I looked both ways. The right was completely clear, but there was a shadow coming closer and closer from the left. I was getting worried, so I prepared myself to shoot. I never had lessons with gun, but I knew that pulling the trigger generally let a bullet fly through the air, so I gave it my best shot. I held up the gun and pulled the trigger, and I fired. Fortunately, I killed the offender before he could get anywhere near us. Unfortunately, I also gave everyone else in the building a rough idea of where we were. That meant we had to make our escape even quicker than I was hoping we would have to. I grabbed Lost by the arm and pulled him out of the room, trying to find out where the others would be. I was afraid that it was going to be too late to save one of them, that I was going to walk into a room and find one of my friends completely lifeless right in front of me. I took a deep breath and swallowed what felt like a huge chunk of razor-sharp glass. As we walked down the hallway, turned to the left and started walking down that way. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I had to get Lost to safety. And still get the others out as well. I opened a door and found Enternode, but he didn't seem to be tortured. He was fine, really. I told him to follow us, and he gladly did. It was then that I saw he had the same puncture wounds in his arms that I had the first day I got here. He was new. He didn't know what was in store for him. I shook my head when he tried to speak, pointing for him to follow behind us. When I turned to the last corner, I heard screaming. I heard Orphan screaming. I felt like I was going to throw up, telling the other two to stay there when I went in to figure out how to get him out of there. I walked up to the door he was in, and I put my ear against it, holding my breath. His screaming was louder now, but I could also make out some tiny words. None of you are listening to anything I have to say. I want to know what your plan is. I want to know how you expect anyone to believe what you have to say. Tell me, how are you going to cause your kingdom to grow and flourish when mine is going to conquer everything? I heard a loud clang of metal, figuring he had probably thrown something before I heard him coming closer to the door. I had to get prepared. I grabbed the gun, I cocked it, and I took a few steps back. Nobody was going to hurt my friends, and no one was going to hurt my lover. I took a deep breath, positioning the gun right on my shoulder with a small wince. This was it. This was the end. The door opened and I shot. I heard a frightened yelp behind me as a slimy puddle formed on the ground in front of me. He was dead, but he had just collapsed into slime instead of crumpling like a normal human, which was weird. I turned around to see Dee die behind me, shaking in fear. She had witnessed the entire thing, and her eyes were wide open when she saw the gun in my hands. Get them to safety, I said sternly, my aqua eyes narrowing as her dark blue ones widened and choked. She ran over to Lost and Enternode, grabbing them and looking at me before she ran off with them, taking them to the safety above. I was taking her out with me. She wasn't going to be held hostage here any longer. I turned around again, going over to Orphan and helping him up. He had a giant gash across his chest, causing me to growl from the deep inside my chest again. He just looked at me and shook his head. I'm fine, Kitty. Really, I'm fine. He sounded exhausted, so I put his arm around my shoulders and started to walk him out of the room and into the hallway. When we got to the flight of stairs leading to our freedom, he stopped, grabbing a hold of the holding bar that stairs have. You mean the rail? It's a rail. He was having trouble breathing, I could tell. I put my hand on his back and tried to let him know that I was going to help him recover, but he pushed my arm away slightly and turned himself so that he was facing me. He was honestly really tall compared to my 5'4" stature, so I had to look up a bit in order to see him in the eyes. You saved my ass back there, he said, looking back towards the room he was in before looking up at the top of the stairs. I don't know if there was ever be a way that I could fully repay you for everything. He cut off, wincing as he took a deep breath. Everything that you've done for us. I just smiled a little. Reaching over then, taking his hand into my own. I swallowed thickly, tears already starting to fall from my eyes again. I just want to go home, I said quietly, wiping at my face where we were bound to beaten scars. He nodded, letting me hold his hand for the first time as they slowly helped up the stairs. He was out of the door first, meeting up with Lost, Enternode, and Dee. I stayed behind, standing on top of the stairs and looking into the dark abyss below. I let a few more tears fall from my eyes as I allowed my mind to linger on everything that had happened the days prior to our escape before I took a deep breath and turned around, walking out of the door and into the arms of my friends. I took Orphan's hand into my own before slamming the door behind the five of us. We all walked into the bright sunlight, into our freedom. I never did make sure that door was locked. To be continued? Yeah, this is a neat little font, but yeah, I'm rather annoyed by the formatting of this story because it's hard to read. Same problem I had with the last one. But the writing production is miles better than Cole's. I don't know why you doubted yourself when you were originally writing this. This is amazing. It might not be the best. I'm yet to see that. But I do think this is a really good story. In any case, I have a better idea of what event you're trying to reference this time, because you're probably trying to reference something after the Torm incident, or the Torm incident itself. But at the same time, the representation is a little weird. I guess you were trying to go for a horror theme, or maybe you were trying to go for a more like one-sided, I guess. In any case, I have to go to. I have been drinking so much fucking water. That's why I have to go to the bathroom so often. In any case, I will be right back.